The Night I Left My Closet Door Open by The Color Books. Yesterday, my therapist told me that it was time for me to let go, to move on with my life, and the only way to do that was to share my story. Get it out in the open, release it from my tight, terrified dreams. So here goes. Years ago, when I was 10 years old, there was a monster in my closet. My family and I had just moved into the new house. My parents were out of work and we had to downgrade homes and leave the old neighborhood behind. It was tough going. We had to make it work. I was so young at the time that the move didn't bother me too much. New friends awaited and new adventures were surely in store. I guess I was a pretty upbeat kid. The first night in the house changed things. It was a school night. My parents had just finished moving and setting up all the furniture. There were still stacks of boxes and unassembled shelves scattered throughout the house, but the important things were there. My bed, my nightstand, my homework desk. My mom had just tucked me in and flicked off the light when I heard the first click. My windows were still open and the shades drawn back, and the soft light of the moon painted my room in a dark blue hue. The first click didn't scare me. All houses made sounds in the night. My friend Brendan's house used to groan under all the weight of the clutter he had. This house wouldn't be any different. But when the second click echoed in my room, something inside me screamed. I bolted up and looked around. Cardboard boxes were stacked all around me. A few toys and clothes were scattered on the floor, a few leftover Legos piled over by the closet. The closet. I stared at it, my eyes wide enough that the room seemed to pulse with my heartbeat. The closet door was ajar. I wasn't sure if I'd closed it all the way or not, but it didn't matter. My imagination was running wild with everything that might be hiding in that dark area. The third click sounded like a gunshot in my hollow room as the closet door inched open wider. I leapt out of bed and flung my small body against the door, slamming it shut. My breath caught my throat, keeping me from screaming. Through the wood, I heard something that sounded like rough, heavy breathing. A warm wind exhaled through the crack beneath the door and swept over my bare feet. And then the breathing stopped. The warm air disappeared. I held myself against the door for a few more minutes, then jumped back. I couldn't believe it. There was an actual monster in my closet. I pushed as many boxes as I could up against the door, and when I ran out of boxes, I climbed into bed with my hockey stick and stared at the closet until dawn. When my mom came in to wake me up, she found me quasi-conscious in bed with the boxes piled high against the closet. I told her about the monster, and she laughed. "I know the move has been hard, sweetie, but I promise you, there's no monster in your closet," she said. "Yes, there is," I said, holding tight to my stick. She sighed and started pushing the boxes out of the way. "Look, I'll show you," she said. "It won't be in there," I said. "Monsters are never in there when morning comes or when parents look for them. It happens in every book. They're never there until it's just the kid alone in the dark." She pushed away the last box and opened up the closet. A few of my clothes hung from the short rack. A single broken light bulb hung from the ceiling. "I thought I told Mark to fix that," she mumbled to herself. She let me stay home for that day, but I couldn't sleep. Every time I started to drift off, I'd hear that click and jolt awake. But the closet was always closed. I kept my hockey stick beside my bed, just in case. When night came, I was exhausted. Still, after my mom tucked me in and left the room, I dragged myself out of bed and pushed the boxes against the closet door. I slept soundly that night. My parents, however, weren't happy to find my room redecorated again the next morning. I told them what would happen if the boxes weren't there, and they told me I was just being dramatic, that I was just imagining things. This is what happens in every book and movie right before the kid gets eaten. The parents don't believe, and then it's all over after that. That afternoon, after school, they took me to see my uncle, a child psychologist who worked in town. They told me that he would make everything better, that he would explain why I had nothing to be afraid of. I sat in his office, looked around at all the bookshelves and scattered toys. There was a ball in the corner that I really wanted to play with. "So you have a monster in your closet, eh, kiddo?" my uncle said. "Yeah," I said, expecting him not to believe me. "What's it look like?" "I don't know. I only heard it breathing. I shut the door before it could escape." "Did it sound big?" "Yeah." "How did you keep it in the closet?" "With the boxes of my stuff." "Were the boxes heavy?" "I guess." "Did you have any trouble moving them?" "No." "So do you think those boxes were enough to keep the monster inside the closet?" "I don't know." "Let me ask you something else. When you went to bed, was your closet door open or closed?" "I don't remember." He sat back in his big chair. "I think I know how to defeat the monster," he said. "What? Really?" I couldn't believe it. He actually believed me, and he had a plan. Taking into consideration the size of the monster, I believe it's safe to say that those boxes aren't doing anything to keep it inside the closet. "Yeah." "What's keeping it from getting out every night is that the closet door is shut. There's something magical about the door that keeps it sealed away." "Really?" "Oh yeah, I see kids with monsters in their closet all the time, and every one of them is solved the same way. Just keep your closet door shut." "You think that'll work?" He reached out and patted my head. "It's worked for everybody else." "That makes sense, I think." "Good," he said. He put his thumb under my chin and lifted my head. "Chin up, kiddo. The monster will get tired of being trapped and leave soon enough." Then he ran a finger across my cheek and sighed. That night, my number one priority was to keep the closet door closed. When my mom finished putting away my clothes, I swung the door shut behind her. "That'll keep the monster trapped," I said. She nodded and tucked me in, turned out the light, and left. I sat in bed, my eyes glued to the closet door, the wall of protective boxes gone. A while passed and I started to doze off when I heard the first click. I snatched my hockey stick and pulled the blankets up over my chin, but the closet door stayed shut. A hot wind pushed out from beneath the door in large breaths, heating up my room. But nothing else moved. My uncle was right. The door was magical. Eventually, the breathing and clicking stopped, and I fell asleep victorious. A few weeks passed, each night similar to the last. With the door shut, only the monster's hot breath and strange clicks made it into my room. I began sleeping through the night, and the nightmares of the first encounter afflicted me less and less. My family started doing better too. My dad got a job at a warehouse, and the stress my parents were feeling seemed to melt away. To celebrate, my parents decided to have an adult party with grown-up drinks, which was fine with me. That meant I got to stay in my room, read books, and draw without having to entertain the old people. "Say something funny, kiddo," they always said, and I would just recite something funny I'd read earlier and they'd all laugh and tell me I was too young to get the joke. Stupid idiots. The night went on and I watched from my window as people started to leave. The voices in the living room began to lessen and I wondered who was all left. I grabbed a pair of socks from the closet and walked out into the living room. My parents and my uncle were sitting on the couch laughing, beers and other drinks in their hands. "Hey, kiddo," my uncle said when he saw me. His words were slurred. "Isn't it your bedtime?" "It's the weekend," I said. "Oh, it's the weekend." He laughed and my parents laughed too. "Come on, little one," my dad said, pushing himself up from the couch. "Your uncle's right. It's time for bed. For everyone, I think." "I'll grab some pillows and blankets for you, Sean," my mom said. "Nah, it's fine," said my uncle. "I'm perfectly happy just catching up right here on the couch." "Suit yourself." I shuffled back into my room with my dad and jumped into bed. "All right, sleep tight. Don't let the bedbugs bite," my dad said as he pulled the covers up over me. He stumbled over to the door and flicked off the light. When he shut the door behind him, I closed my eyes. All the reading had made them extra sore and I was ready for a solid sleep. But as I laid there, the dreams beginning to swim around me, I remembered something. The closet door was open. I didn't shut it after grabbing my socks. My eyes bolted open and I sat up. The crack of darkness was there, the door open only a few inches. I eased myself out of bed and slowly crept towards the door. I didn't hear any breathing or clicking. It wasn't too late. Then my bedroom door opened and I froze as my uncle stepped quietly into my room. "Hey, kiddo," he whispered. "Hey," I said. "What you doing?" "Shutting the door before the monster wakes up." Leave it for a sec. I gotta talk to you." He sat down on my bed and patted the spot next to him. I figured as long as there was an adult in the room, the monster wouldn't come in. So I went and sat down next to him. "You've gotten big," he whispered. His breath smelled gross, like old beer and expired mouthwash. "My mom says I grew 2 inches this year," I said. 2 inches? Wow, he nodded. "So I thought I'd come in here and keep you safe." "Safe?" "From the, monster. If I'm in here, he won't come and get you." "I guess. Only, there's a couple of things we need to do before we can be super safe." "What?" "Well, the first thing is we've got to get into our underwear." "We do?" "Yeah. That'll show the monster we're not scared of him." I wasn't sure about this. I took off my socks and then sat there while my uncle peeled off his shirt. "What's wrong?" he said. "I don't like this," I said. "I think I need my mom and dad." I stood up, but he grabbed my arm. "They're asleep. No reason to wake them up." "I think I should." I shook his hand off and tried to walk towards the door, but he caught me by the shoulder and pulled me back to the bed. "I said stay here," he whispered through his clenched teeth as he loomed over me. His other hand brushed against my cheek again, then tightened around my neck. "Get off!" I tried to yell, but his hand tightened. "Shh," he said. "This is how you defeat the monster." I grasped for breath as his grip grew tighter and tighter. I tried to hit him, but the alcohol made him immune to my small fists. He was whispering things, but all I could hear was a sharp ringing as my vision began to get foggy. Then, through the ringing, I heard a series of quick clicks, a wash of hot breath, and all at once the pressure around my neck disappeared. I rolled onto the floor, gasping for breath, blinking away the fog, and saw my uncle on the ground. A dark claw clasped around his mouth, his eyes wide in a silent scream as something enormous and black dragged him across the floor towards the open closet door. He reached his hand out to me, begging for help, and I kicked them away. Then he was gone, devoured by the darkness as the closet door slammed shut behind him. I stayed on the floor until morning, my eyes never leaving the closet. My parents found me eventually. When they saw the bruises around my throat, they lost it, demanding to know what happened. Who did this to me and where my uncle was? All I could do was point to the closet. My dad, in a rage like I had never seen, almost ripped the closet door off its hinges. When he saw what was inside, however, all that fury died immediately. There was my uncle, hanging from the electrical cords pulled through the ceiling, his eyes bulging out further than his tongue. A monster in my closet. I don't know if I'll ever get the image of him hanging there out of my mind. But, and I know this sounds sick, but I almost don't want to let that image go. What keeps me awake at night is his final moment, him being dragged across the floor, his hands reaching, just before the claw emerged and silenced him forever. I don't know if the darkness was protecting me, or if my uncle happened to be the first thing it saw in weeks. And the uncertainty that that might have been me, that's what keeps me up into the night. My eyes locked on my closet door.